Hey everybody, it's Chef Tom here, and welcome to, I guess we'll call this episode 1 part 2. I don't want to call it episode 2 just yet, because I had a very specific goal for that. But we'll be working through the rest of soldering the board and testing, and making sure that everything works. And you'll see that we've run into a couple of issues with that, and I'll be back with you as soon as we're done over on the bench. So when we stopped last week because my camera ran out of memory, and then I decided just to make the video because I realized how long it was going to be, I got to the point where I was planning on putting my ZIF socket into this socket, which seemed like a great idea. So I rested it on there and said, oh, yeah, that looks like it's going to fit. That'll be just fine. But it's not. It hits the LCD screen. And that's just my fault for not thinking about the fact I wanted to put a ZIF socket there. So I won't be able to put the ZIF socket there to start with. I will just have to put my EEPROM right in and pull it as I need to, like I was doing before. Helps if you put it in the right socket, not off by one. It might actually sit. Of course, I crammed that dip socket in there, and now I'm wondering if I screwed up this. If I screwed this up so bad that I can't put my EEPROM in here, which would make me very angry. I'd have to desolder the whole. Yeah, I'm gonna have to desolder the whole thing and put a new one on. I bent that way out of shape. Actually, while I'm waiting for the desoldering gun to heat up, I thought I had. I'm gonna put some interconnects into the LCD to protect it. Wasn't sure if I was gonna want to use 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch under the board, and of course the BB830 board is going to be like 3/8 of an inch, so I'll probably do half. I probably should figure out which one I need to put in. I think I need to put halves in here too. Actually, is this hole going to be big enough? I mean, I can probably force thread it, but I want to put these. Let's add that to the list. Let's put holes for display need to be slightly bigger. Okay. These screws are probably the same thread, so they're not going to go through either. They're not, so we will add that to things we need to work on for the next revision. Holes for the display need to be able to fit. I've got a tap and die kit out in my shop, and I could probably, or even just take the drill and just drill it out a little more. Goes through that just fine. So I could at least put them here and just support the LCD so I don't have to worry about the pins. Not 100% what I was planning to do. I was just hoping to screw these down so I could put the screws in the top, but whatever. That will support that for now. That way I don't worry about breaking those pins. But for the moment, we're going to take that off completely so we can desolder. It's my first time using my desoldering gun. Kinda love it. Not gonna lie, for a relatively inexpensive one from Amazon, that actually saved me a ton of work. I mean, I still gotta get in there with some flux and pull some of that out. This one in particular doesn't seem to want to come through. It doesn't even look like the pin's all the way. Oh yeah, like it looks like I pushed the pin, so I'll have to get in there with the regular soldering gun. That was a mess. I'll be resoldering that. Maybe I couldn't get the solder out of. Guess I'll use that as my corner to hold things in place at least. Alright. Alright, that's actually in there. Ground and reset. Oh. Aha, it lives, because it should do nothing. I probably just, we'll just leave it at full tilt for now. Reset. Haha! And the default says button 1, so either I've got a short somewhere, or it's just going with the default for button 1. Next is to rebuild my 4-button interface on here, on this breadboard, which, actually, we can kind of cheat that a little bit, since this is already built. Three. Button 4. Button 1. So it's working. We have successfully moved it over to the new board, and now we have much more prototyping capability here with the breadboard attached, as opposed to me using this crazy breakout board, and then like little bits at a time, adding things. So all the upgrades that we wanted to get into here are here, which is great. As you can see, I'm still powering it off of this because I don't have a USB hub. I just have a charger that I usually keep on the desk so I can run power to that. But now I have a desktop power supply, so the future iterations of this probably won't have the USB plug. I'll leave myself some posts to be able to just hook up my power supply to it, which will be way nicer to work with. I think we'll take a break here with building and testing. We were back to where we were before the new board arrived, which I think is a good stopping point. So originally I intended to stop the last video, but it was just running really long. And we'll get back on my desk, discuss what the next steps moving forward are. So what did we learn from building this? First, we need to adjust the Eagle design rules so that there's some more space around the pads before we get to the vias. I just found they were way too close with the default settings, and I was worried about tenting the vias, which is something I didn't want to do. In that same vein, we need to update the PCB designs for the 65 series library to use the same pads and holes for the 74 series logic, which have much bigger pads and bigger holes and are much easier to work with. Probably have to update that with the EPROMs and the RAM IC as well. That ZIF socket not fitting because it hits the LCD, we can reorient the RAM and ROM to be 90 degrees from where they are so that there's plenty of room. The board is plenty big enough for that. The decoupling capacitor that I forgot, we're looking at putting a 330 microfarad capacitor right off of the USB port that will filter. The default resistor package that I'm using is a 4mm footprint. It needs to be updated to a 5 or 6mm footprint just so that I can lay the resistors flat. C4 needs to be updated to a polarized radial package instead of leaving it as a disc cap. I don't even know if I can make a 1 microfarad full microfarad disc cap. Even if there was, I still want to make it polarized. And then the hole size for where I can put the LCD supports going below the board and into the board needs to be increased slightly. All of these are just updates to the packages within Eagle and should not be too difficult once I learn how to do it. I have no idea how to do that though, so I will be figuring that one out in the next episode. As for next steps, now that we have the new board in place and it's tied into the breadboard, we can prototype new hardware very quickly and easily, which means we can work on the W65C51. The next step, big step for this project, is to get the UART circuit in place and get it talking to my desktop, which will be a combination of hardware and software. I am specifically using the W65C51. I know that people complain about the bugs in it, the timeouts that it has, but because I want to use new hardware and not rely on old stock, which may or may not run out someday, we're just going to build around the bug in that hardware, and that way moving forward we'll never have to worry about if we have to put a bug in a update in place or anything like that. Our first step to see if that's up and running will be to write some assembly to have the computer wait for an input from a serial terminal and give us some feedback. Anything like press any key, get a response that says hello world. That's really all I'm looking for to start with. Alright, I got some stuff from Mouser as well. This is actually for the next part, which we were going to talk about anyway. Oh wow, I've never ordered from Mouser before. They really kind of overpacked this, didn't they? This side up, fragile parts open carefully. When I offered from Jameco before, they do not pack stuff this crazy. Thought I ordered 2 of these. This should be a WDC 65C51. And these are 6521 peripheral interface adapters. And this one is the key to the next phase, the W65C816 microprocessor. this is what we're going to be building towards once we get this all kind of figured out and we learn all our basics and get all of our base routines set. Then we'll start working on the hardcore mode with 16 bits. What else do I have from Mouser today? Well, I did say that the next big project was going to be this 6551. It's going to be the next big project, so we're going to do that. 6551 allows us to have a serial interface. So, kept the serial interface DB9s and a USB to RS-232 adapter. And finally, I'd like to use the serial adapter to be able to send data to the LCD screen so that we can update the LCD screen from the computer. I know it's not a huge thing to be able to say, take input from A and put it to output B, but it's going to be a big step for me. And that's the steps we're going to try and tackle next week, or the next couple of weeks, in the next episode or 2 or 3 or 4, or however long it takes to figure it out. So I hope you'll join me then, and thank you for watching.